All right. Yay! I'm going to record it as if I was recording it for other people, but this is your class. So this is the second class of November. This is actually one of my favorite stories because Wonder Woman was based off of this character in Greek mythology. Um, and I think a lot of your superheroes and your villains can be traced back to Greek mythology because they're delicious characters. That's my favorite part of Greek mythology. So I'm going to share my screen here. Should have had that ready, but I didn't because I'm slow going myself today, Aiden. Woo, am I slow going? Um, Here we go. So this is Atalanta and the Golden Apples, and I want to give you a little bit of background on Atalanta. Now, this does not say specifically in the story that we're going to read, but it's really good to have the background information because it's relevant to today. So, according to Greek mythology, Atalanta was born in Arcadia, a region of Greece in the southern part of the Peloponnese Peninsula. As an infant, Atalanta was abandoned by her father and left to die in the woods, presumably because he wanted a son. So, I got a lot of gasps this week on that. And I said, it's thousands of years later, and there are cultures and there are religious groups that want a son, right, over a daughter. So it's really interesting here because when we pick up the story, the king and queen have their daughter back. Yeah. She was saved and suckled by a she-bear. This is a stretch, who protected her until she was found by a group of hunters. These hunters raised Atalanta. She learned to hunt like a bear and became a skilled huntress. She grew up fending for herself, hated the idea of marriage, and didn't really care for men in general. Before long, she was full grown, fully lethal, killing centaurs in the name of Artemis. She is tough. She is like Wonder Woman, right? Um, the first event in Greek mythology where Atalanta is appears is the Caledonian boar hunt. Um, so in the Caledonian boar hunt, this great monster had all these males trying to come together to kill it. And here comes Atalanta, who earned her reputation by being the first hunter to wound the boar. And she was also super duper fast. She could beat any man in a foot race, and that's going to be really important to our story today. So I think at this point, her parents recognize, oh, she's accomplished, she's strong, she's famous, she is, people respect her. So when we grab the story, we're back at she's with her mom and dad. Okay, and this is where it gets fun. Her mom and dad, of course, say, you're our heir, right? I'm going to go ahead and stop share here for a minute. You're our heir, so we need you to get married. So that brought up a conversation this week. Do your parents, Aiden, expect you to get married
Yeah.
in this day and age, right? It's the expectation. That really hasn't changed. Well, Atalanta doesn't want to get married. They're like, well, you're going to need somebody to help you run the kingdom. She goes, no, I don't. I can hire people. Um, so they continue to say, no, no, it's your duty, it's your obligation. You have to get married. She's like, okay, I'll marry anyone who can beat me in a foot race, knowing nobody can. And then a really funny part in the story says that, just a background story that she would spear the challengers in a foot race because she believed they didn't want her, they wanted the title, right? So she's like, I don't trust any of these guys. They don't want me. Okay, so Aphrodite comes along. Here's our supernatural element in the story. And she feels like Atalanta, this is a mockery of marriage and love, which she firmly believes in. So she's having none of that. So Hippomenes, and I love Hippomenes. What a good guy in our story here. He's just come off a ship. He doesn't know who she is. All she knows is he's attractive. She's attractive. She runs by him, and he's like, oh, I'm impressed with her. Aphrodite says, oh, he's interested in her, has Eero send a dart, basically a love spell. So Hippomenes falls in love with Atalanta. So, of course, Hippomenes challenges Atalanta to foot race. I'm recording the class as well. So, um, and sorry, somebody just walked in late. So I lost my train of thought. That's what happens when kids come in late. Okay, love spell. Okay, okay. And he knows he can't beat her in a race. So he goes to Aphrodite and says, I need help. I can't beat her. Okay, so another supernatural element here. Okay, so we have a couple of literary devices, and the first one is the rule of three. The story is called Atalanta and the Golden Apples because there are three golden apples. 1, 2, 3. Three, you'll see the reason for three later. Golden apples, let's just talk about that gold. Is gold valuable today? Right? So they would have been valuable. In Greek culture, however, and this is on your sheet on page 4, golden apples were divine fruits, offered immortality or fertility to whoever ate them. Okay, so Aphrodite is using trickery and cunning by giving Hippomenes, she says, just throw each of these apples, right, during the race, and Atalanta is going to have to stop and grab them. Now, and you're thinking, well, what if she doesn't like the apple? Okay, it's going to have a spell on them. She's going to be so tempted she can't not stop. Does that make sense? So that's really the message of our story today. And I think the apple, the symbolism of the apple is much more about temptation. I think you think about Snow White. Do you remember the apple? And it was beautiful and shiny. And of course, she can't resist eating the apple. You can go back to forbidden fruit, and apples represent, usually are used in a lot of stories. Just this idea from the Bible, the beginning of creation, Adam and Eve are in the garden, and the serpent says, don't eat that fruit. Or God tells her, don't eat the fruit. And the snake says, yes, you can. And she's tempted. She takes a bite and she gives it to Adam, and he takes a bite. That's how sin entered the world. That's the story. Anyway, but again, it's that temptation. Okay. And then finally, figurative language. She took off like a deer. She took off like a speeding cheetah. Okay, so we have the rule of three. We have symbolism. We have figurative language. And we have this supernatural element. Okay, so I want to make sure I got all that done before we read the story. Okay, everybody go to page 1. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen for those of you at home and maybe don't have it with you. Here we go. Atalanta and the Golden Apples. Long ago, in a peaceful little court of Greece, there lived a king and a queen who loved each other very much. Although their kingdom was not large or wealthy, they and all their people lived happily. This king and queen had a daughter, a princess, who was intelligent, beautiful, and a skilled huntress. She also happened to be the fastest runner in the world. Her name was Atalanta. So you can see why I gave you the background story. So those of you who came in late, and Manav, that's you, and you, make sure you read the background story, because Atalanta is pretty much the origin story of Wonder Woman. There's a reason she is who she is. When she reached a certain age, Atalanta's parents told her, one day you will become queen, and ruling this land is too big for one person to do alone. It is time for you to marry. To their surprise, Atalanta replied, I can ask wise men or women to help me run the country. As for a husband, perhaps I shall have one someday, but for now, there is no one whom I wish to marry. The queen asked, what about all those fine young men who come around asking to marry you? Surely there must be one. They care nothing for me, mother, Atalanta replied. They only want to marry me in order to become king one day. But the king and queen insisted. Finally, Princess Atalanta said, very well, I shall marry the first unmarried man who can defeat me in a foot race. What? Her parents exclaimed. As you might imagine, many young men came to race against the princess, hoping to marry her. She easily defeated every single one, enjoying herself tremendously. One day, after winning yet another race, she just kept running past the finish line for the sheer delight of it. She did not know that looking down from Mount Olympus that day was the goddess of love, Aphrodite. The goddess thought, she is making a joke of love. I cannot allow this to go on. Now, I want to tell you, usually when you anger a god, it's not good. Like, you're punished horribly. Actually, it's going to, spoiler, end really well for her. Okay. Now, at that same moment, a young man was walking along the same road upon which Atalanta was now running. So, chance encounter. The young man was a brave adventurer named Hippomenes. He was just returning from a long sea voyage, so he knew nothing of the princess's challenge. As Hippomenes walked along, he glanced ahead and saw the most beautiful young woman he'd ever laid eyes on, Atalanta, on running his way at an unbelievable speed. It was Atalanta, of course, and as Hippomenes was looking at her, the goddess Aphrodite was looking at him. So this is an attraction. So he's already attracted to her. So she's just going to push him a little farther. Does that make sense? Yeah. But she actually did them both a favor here. Turning to her son Eros, Aphrodite said, "Go shoot an invisible arrow of love into Hippomenes' heart so that he will fall in love with Atalanta." So Eros did as he was told, and Hippomenes instantly fell in love with Atalanta as she ran by him. He thought, "I have never seen such joy on a human face. I would not have thought it possible, but I believe that I have fallen in love with her." At once he began to pray to Aphrodite for help, which is what the goddess had planned all along. She appeared before Hippomenes and told him that he must outrace Atalanta if he wanted to marry her. "But this is impossible, my lady," Hippomenes told Aphrodite. "I am a very fast runner, but I've never seen anyone move as Atalanta does." I love this here because he has such respect for her and her talent. The goddess presented Hippomenes with three golden apples made of purest gold that shone almost as brightly as the sun. "When Atalanta sees these apples, she will not be able to resist picking them up," Aphrodite said. "Here's what you must do." The next day, Hippomenes challenged Atalanta to a race. Inside his rather loose-fitting clothing, he had hidden the three golden apples. Before the race, he told Atalanta, "Your Highness, I want you to know why I'm racing against you." Atalanta answered, "In order to marry a princess and become king someday." To her shock, he replied, "No, in order to marry the woman I love. She just happens to be a princess." Then he walked to the starting line while Atalanta thought, "There's something different about this one." Still, she took her place next to him. A moment later, the race was on. Atalanta began to pull ahead almost at once, but Hippomenes drew out one of the apples from inside his clothing, tossed it ahead of her and a little to the side. The moment Atalanta saw the apple, she had to have it. She turned and went after it. That's how we know there's a spell. She picked it up. As she picked it up, she saw Hippomenes ahead of her, and losing no more time, she took off like a deer. Soon Hippomenes heard her footsteps closing in behind him, drawing out apple number 2. He held it up so she would see it and tossed it over his shoulder. Love that. I can just imagine that. She turned right around and ran back to get it while Hippomenes ran on. Grabbing the second apple, she saw Hippomenes halfway to the finish line. This time, Atalanta took off after him like a speeding cheetah dashing across the grasslands. Soon, Hippomenes could hear her rapid footsteps getting closer, and he took out apple number 3, rule of 3, and threw it into a nearby field of tall grass. Of course, Atalanta went after it, hunting through the grass for the golden fruit while Hippomenes kept running. Sorry, this one too she held in the palm of her hand as she returned to the race. So she's racing with apples in her hands. In all of Atalanta's life, she'd never run as fast as she ran then. Her feet seemed not to touch the ground. Faster and faster she moved, and closer to Hippomenes she came. He told himself, "Don't look back or you might lose a step." Now she was only 3 steps behind him, now 2 steps, now just 1. And then she thought to herself, would it be so terrible if I did marry him? And as she thought that, Hippomenes gained a step and crossed the finish line before her. Well, I'm glad to say that Atalanta kept her word and married Hippomenes, and I'm even gladder to say that she had been right. There was something different about him, and soon she loved him as much as he loved her. Hippomenes never minded that Atalanta could outrun him. He was happy just to be the one running with her. So, first of all, what a great story. Strong woman, like Wonder Woman. Just what a great story too about, just finding the right person. And so this one ended pretty happily. At the bottom of page 4, I gave you a couple of words, and this is going to go into our application today. We are going to make an application. Yay, no textual references. The definition of temptation is the desire to do something, especially something wrong or unwise. A temptation is not usually a good thing. And here's the thing, we're all tempted by something. And you look at the synonyms, we have a desire, an impulse, an urge, an inclination. And, even when we know it's not good for us, we do it anyway, you know? So this is what Aphrodite did. This is the spell to entice Atalanta to do something she wouldn't ordinarily do. I'm pretty sure she would have not gone after the apples. I'm pretty sure there was a spell on them. I hope y'all agree with me on that one. And the moral of the story here really is Atalanta wanted to be free and independent, but what was expected of her was to marry. Aphrodite, given Hippomenes 3 golden apples to throw during the race, worked. Atalanta was too tempted by them. She had to stop and pick them up. This was the only reason he defeated her, right? So how can our temptations become a stumbling block for us? And they will. So students today, and I got to be honest with y'all, your generation, man, I didn't have a cell phone when I was growing up. I literally talked about this in my Bible study today. We were talking about just how kids call their parents immediately when something's wrong. We couldn't call anybody. We just figured it out ourselves. Your computer, your iPad, man, how many of you, if you want to raise your hand, even if you're online, do you get sucked in by this? And it's so tempting that you're on it for longer than you intended to be. And this could be a game. This could be, now I'm not going to put reading a book because I'm not going to get mad at you if you're reading a book on your iPad. I will never get mad at you for that. What trips you up? I'm just curious. YouTube Shorts? Same. What trips you up, Aiden?
Video games.
Ooh, congratulations, you're normal. Manav, what trips you up?
Video games and YouTube Shorts.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I've done, but I'm going to I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's just talk about what your peers came up with this week. And this is my last day to teach this class. This is what they said was tempting to them. Any technology device, all of them, right? Social media apps, texting. If you think about what do you think is the number one issue why people have more car accidents or fatalities? Phone. My poor nephew, he's 31, literally was looking at Google Maps. Bam. Yeah. That's why you listen to Google Maps. You don't look at it. How about this one, y'all? Eating unhealthy foods. You ever been tempted to eat something that's not good for you? Raise your hand. Uh-huh. I'm telling you, at the high school, do you want to know how they make the most money? They're vending machines. The Coke machine and the Takis and the chips machine. Kids go in high school, that's their lunch. And I'm like, that is horrible, right? Can we all agree that's horrible? Drinking sugary caffeinated beverages and not exercising, being lazy. We know that your generation is getting less exercise. Why? Because you've got screens that are demanding your attention or tempting you, right? I brought up vaping, and I can bring up any kind of drug, actually, because I don't know if you know this, but every middle school and high school has drug dogs. In Coppell, they have drug dogs. They come once a month. Now, why would you need a drug dog at a middle school? And it's not because of the kids that are just trying to be there and do their job. Let me tell you what drug dealers do. They infiltrate these schools. They get someone to come in that looks young and offer it for free to the kids. Hey, try this. This is really cool. And it looks like maybe a gummy bear, right? And the kids are like, cool. Vaping, by the way, they used to have flavors like raspberry and cotton candy and cherry, and which was awful that they targeted young kids. But there's a reason we have Red Ribbon Week in elementary school. I always wondered about that when I used to be an elementary teacher. Why are we doing Red Ribbon Week? They're like 8, 9, 10, and 11. They're not doing drugs. It's so that they know when they are tempted by someone, they can say no. Gossiping. Oh, Akira, back me up here. We girls.
I was gossiping to my mom on the way here.
And then, your friends suck you in. And guys, you may not call it gossiping, but it's like trash talking in sports, right? And you go down this rabbit hole and people are like, hey, did you see him? And then you start, talking negative. Um, Bullying. Isn't gossip bullying if you think about it? Right? There's somebody overweight in your class and someone's picking on them and they invite you into the conversation. Hey, did you see what he had on? Did you see? Yeah. Um, Buying expensive clothes and tennis shoes. Why do we do that? Because we see other people have them and we're tempted to buy them so that we can, keep up, follow the crowd. Peer pressure is tough, right? So a couple things this week, y'all get the benefit online class and the people who are here today. I heard some really fun things this week. One young lady said, well, when I'm in the lunchroom, this is a girl, 7th grade, all my friends are cussing in the lunchroom. And I go, cussing as in using profanity, curse words. She goes, yeah. And she said, they're all just cussing. And I'm like, are you cussing with them? And she goes, I try not to, but sometimes they kind of suck me in. I'm going to be honest. And I really appreciated her for saying that. Another girl said, I'm in the hallway. And she goes, I don't even know these girls really well. And they go, we're going to cut class. We're going to go in the restroom. Want to cut class with us? And she's like, no, thanks. Um, this is middle school stuff. Are the temptations going to get worse in high school? Yeah. So I want to address predators on the internet. And Aiden and Manav, both of you said gaming. Do you game? Do games? Those chat rooms, you got to be super careful because predators will say they're a kid and they're an adult and they're trying to get you. Yeah, so you got to be really careful.
Don't chat. I don't
That you shouldn't chat. That's a really smart thing to do. So at the bottom of page 6, this is going to show you what you're going to do for your essay today. There are three ways kids today can stop giving into temptations. Now, you're never going to completely be able to say no all the time. But remove is the best way to avoid a temptation. Remove it from your sight. So, for example, and I don't have my phone, let's say it's your iPad at night. Let's just say it's this. Should you have it in your room at night? Should you have any technology in your room at bedtime? Remove it. And I'm guessing that your parents have already done that for you. Am I right? Because they know you cannot. It's too tempting. It's like the golden apples. There's a spell that technology puts on their devices, and we can't look away from them. Remove it from sight. Yeah. Or remove yourself, right? I always say go outside, right? Just go outside. I go outside with my dog. I go for a walk. Number 2 is resist. Easier said than done when your friends are gossiping, making fun of someone. When you want to buy something expensive because everyone at school has it. Resist, just resist. And then the last one, and this is third for a very valid reason, hopefully you won't have to do this one, is run. And I don't mean literally run, but get away from bad influences. Peer pressure, vaping, say no thanks, and leave. I'm going to tell you a true story. My high school senior year, I was captain of my track team, and I'm in the back of the car with 2 of my track teammates. Hadn't really gone out with them before. I was having a really good time, and they're in the back of the car. I was 18, and they had a marijuana joint, and I was sitting in the middle between them, and they over me, hey, do you want some? And I said, no, thanks. Not my thing. Just not my thing. And y'all, I got out of there fast. As soon as we parked, I got in my car, left, never went out with them again. Sometimes you think you know somebody and then you go out with them or you hang out with them and you see, you're doing something. I'm not comfortable with that. That goes against my moral and ethical code. And let me just give you one, cheating. I'm going to guess everyone's asked you to cheat. Yeah. Get out of there. No, I'm not comfortable with it. Right. Get out of there or remove yourself or mm-mm, mm-mm. So I gave you 3 examples here, and I'm only going to read number 2. Aaron just bought the new VR headset. He was obsessed with playing it, despite how the game warned him not to play more than 30 minutes at a time. He wanted to keep playing. Warnings are given for a reason. But Aaron convinced himself it was no big deal and he would not be harmed by it. What do y'all know what happens when you play VR too long?
But I think
I have one. It makes your like it makes you dizzy.
It can cause seizures,
Yeah.
so a neurological disorder. I mean, I think you would have to be playing 24/7 to do that. But I know gamers, Aiden, Mana, back me up that can. Oh, thank you. Is it hard to get off of it, Aiden?
For me, no, but there's kids in my class who are like
Obsessed.
they always want to get on it. Yeah.
Okay, so what I want you to do, everybody listen. I want you to try the whole essay. It's not hard. At least try the introduction paragraph and the body paragraph, at least two. Okay. The introduction, pretty easy. Greek myths purposely teach a lesson. In the story Atalanta, the goddess Aphrodite, just summarize the story as if you were telling a friend what the story was about. And then connect with what did the apples in this story symbolize? Because that's the most important part, temptation. And unwise actions can be tempting to humans. And this is a timeless tale that resonates with readers today. We give in to wants and desires against our better judgment. So whether it's technology, peers, or outside influences, I'm going to give you the topics. I want you to give me a topic on what one way to avoid succumbing to technology enticements is to remove them. Give me a story. Akira, right? Sneaks her phone into her bed at night, right? Every night.
no.
Yeah. How did I know? She said, right? Because it's tempting. That's how I know. Because I have two children that are grown up. Y'all can't pull anything over on me that my kids didn't already try. Just have a fun example, make a fun story, and it's fictitious. Name them, have fun with it. The second one is really about peer pressure, following the crowd. I know we've done so many essays on this. This should be easy for you. This could be a group of girls, a group of guys, trash talking in sports. How hard is it to resist and not go with the crowd, right? And then the last one I think is going to be the hard one is a predator, a run example. And I think gaming chat rooms is obviously, I think social media is a giant predator trap. I really do. It is so absolutely terrifying as a parent. My kids didn't have TikTok, but they will tell me if I had TikTok when I was younger, I don't know. But, and then even TikTok has been known to send you down a rabbit hole. So what happens is you can get into groups, right? And they can get you into serious self-harming behavior. It may seem simple, but remembering to remove, resist, and run can protect anyone from a sticky situation. So remember that, the 3 Rs: remove, resist, run. Might save you someday. Conclusion, all children struggle to say no to temptations, y'all. Adults do. Like, look how many adults have Teslas, nice houses. What are they doing? They are keeping up with the Joneses. They are copying. So they want to look like they are successful, like everybody else, right? We all give in to temptations and do things we know that is not good for us. Avoiding the lure of technology, resisting following the crowd, and knowing what to look for when it comes to negative influences. And then you can kind of conclude with, how the story ended and what does this story connect and how does it connect with kids today? I think this is pretty easy, yes? Pretty easy, yes. Please read example number 3, this example situation, because I want to tell you that's a true story that happened to my daughter. My daughter went to a Katy Perry concert. She was recruited by a modeling agency. They gave her a card. It was a woman. And she got me into the conversation and we called the woman on the card. It seemed legit, y'all. We have several phone calls. We send them pictures. We talked to this guy on Zoom, and that's when the red flags came up. He said, your daughter needs to move to New York. She was 15 at the time. Without you, we have adult chaperones. And we call our girls the dolls. And I went, we're not interested. No, no, no. That was human trafficking. And that happened to my daughter, and she was 15. How do I know it's human trafficking? Because it's happening right now. And they are very clever about how they lure, and they're luring even the parents because they want their kids to be successful. Oh, terrifying. And it happened to us. So thankfully, listen to that. Listen to that intuition that you have that something's not right and run. Okay. All right. This concludes the lesson. You're good to go, everybody. Good one. Got it? Good story. I know. Me too. It's one of my faves. All right. You're good to go. If you need to print, Lisa's in there. Aiden and Manav, you're free to log off. And this concludes lesson 2. Thanks for watching.